This is the greatest job in the world. I'd probably do it for free, but don't let any HR people take that back home with you. But the greatest thing about this job is I get the opportunity to introduce to you folks that you may not have heard of, you may not have met, you may not have had the privilege to know. Today, I'm going to introduce you to Dan Shaw for the first time for some of you, and that's a wonderful thing. For others who've known Dan Shaw for decades, it's a good thing for me. For once, they confirm that for once, everything I'm going to say is absolutely true and accurate, which may be a rare occurrence. I can assure you that every word, that every thought, that every promise that Dan is about to deliver to you is true and sincere. I can assure you that what Dan is about to deliver is really important and well worth your time. I can do that because I've known Dan for more than 17 years. I've worked with Dan, I've trusted Dan, I've relied on Dan, and never once has Dan come up short or failed to honor his word or done anything less than his very best. For hundreds of commitments, promises, agreements, deals between Dan and I and his company and his friends, the only thing we've ever had to bind us was a handshake in a low-budget restaurant, which he paid for 17 years ago. A handshake. A handshake. To some, that's a meaningless tradition, but Dan doesn't feel that way. Dan's word is his bond. I trust Dan implicitly, and so can you. And now a little more about Dan's service record just so far. Dan Shaw has been in the fire service since 1992, starting in Howard County, Maryland as a volunteer. In '95, he was appointed to the Fairfax County Fire Rescue Department, and Dan currently serves as the Deputy Chief of Operations. Additionally, Dan is the Vice President of Traditions Training, and he was fortunate enough to co-author 25 to Survive, Reducing Residential Injuries and LODDs with his dear friend, Captain Doug Mitchell, who will grace this stage for you tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my sincere pleasure and joy to welcome to the stage Deputy Chief Dan Shaw.
Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. This quote, often attributed to our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln, so eloquently and simply states a point that is vital to us as firefighters. We must painstakingly train and drill, dedicating time, effort, and sweat to hone our skills in preparation for a task that may only take a few moments to execute, but is essential to our success. The task of applying 8 pounds of force on a nozzle bell, releasing hundreds of gallons of water onto the seat of the fire may be simple. Equally, the concept of forcing that front door, clearing that window to search, all are simple tasks that may only take seconds. But the preparation for putting that skill to use was years in the making because the repercussions for not doing so can be deadly. Deadly to us, deadly to those we took an oath to protect. And then the question becomes not simply how do we prepare, but how do we prepare correctly? How do we sharpen our axe? With all the demands we have upon us in the American Fire Service, it could be easy to lose focus, and even harder to prioritize what is important. But history teaches us many valuable lessons of how we can be successful if we only remove our blinders, put our bias in our back pocket, and we're willing to learn. Since the earliest days of our civilization, we have used storytelling to share history from one generation to the next, sharing lessons and experiences, sharing how far we've come, and sharing to ensure our past is never forgotten as we all forge into the future. We all struggle to always be prepared and lead in this ever-changing environment. But an important first step is to know our history and why that history has such a profound impact on everything we do every single day. The fire service has led us, albeit under the most unfortunate of circumstances, to learn from firefighters we will never meet, like Brett Tarver and Kyle Wilson, and Lewis Matthews and Anthony Phillips and the Cherry Road fire in Northeast DC. Yet many times when I travel around my own department and when I get the privilege and opportunity to travel around the country teaching, a common occurrence takes place when I mention their names. Blank stares. Blank stares because they have no idea what incident I'm talking about, no idea about the tragedy and sacrifice of our lost brothers and sisters. Does this mean they're bad firefighters or not dedicated to our craft? Absolutely not. This phenomenon means that we as a collective fire service have failed in providing the tool, the outlet, the platform, the path for our members to learn from our history. We like to use parallels in the fire service because, honestly, it's really kind of rather smart to not reinvent the wheel, especially if another industry has already gone through the trials and tribulations of doing so. Specifically, we like to use the military. And why not? They're similar to us in rank structure, organization, and they're mission-based. They also offer some clear examples that have been consistently successful. One such example is the Commandant's Reading List. Several years ago, I stumbled upon a letter from 1989 that was penned by the 29th Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Al Gray, in which he initiated the Commandant's Reading List. The title of the memo was "A 30-Year Body in a 5,000-Year Mind." And the basis of this letter was the development of a reading list that would encompass 5,000 years of warfare recorded in the annals of history. 5,000 years of documenting history of warfare, of lessons what worked and how to make that success occur again, but also lessons about incompetence so it could be avoided in the future. It can be succinctly summed up by a quote in that same letter from the Commandant. Reading provides a better way to do business. It doesn't provide all the answers, but lights what is the dark path ahead. General Mad Dog Mattis put it even more eloquently. If you are not reading, you are functionally illiterate, and you will be incompetent because your personal experiences alone aren't broad enough to sustain you. And how true is that statement? If you are not reading every day, learning and growing, you may be able to read and write, but our profession demands more than a simple baseline of a third grader. It demands that we can function with a high level of precision in the most chaotic and stressful situations that we all face every day. And without capitalizing on this free experience, and don't be mistaken, that's what it is. This is free experience from those shoulders we all stand on each day. If we are not seizing this free experience that can be gained from our history, we're doing a disservice to ourselves, to those we lead and charge down a smoky hallway with, and the families at home waiting for us to come back home safely. But there is a caveat, and it was captured by President Harry Truman. All leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders. One cannot walk away thinking because you read a book, an after-action report, or an article that you're a natural-born leader or ready for any incident. It is work. It is striving and grinding to achieve mastery, a constant practice, and a dedication to our craft. We must pair our experience with this newfound knowledge and do something with it. It takes work. We cannot bury our heads in the sand and tie an anchor to our progress with past practices because we're afraid of change or because nothing bad has happened to us yet. A sandpaper culture, a culture of resistance, does not equal success in the firehouse or on the fireground. It places ego above mission. And we all know an unchecked ego is the enemy to our success and our leadership. But here's the best part. There is only one person who crafts this narrative, one person who controls this path and this outcome. That is you, that is me, that is all of us, brothers and sisters. I find it tiresome, I hope you do also, when I hear people say or espouse on social media that we need to take the fire service back. Who took it? And where did it go? And if someone did, then we're culpable because we let them do so. We all face this struggle. The fire service as an organization has failed in this endeavor. But today, this week, we can change that narrative. So it begs the question, What is the singular universal platform for the fire service that exists to overcome this challenge? We don't have an Army Command and General Staff College that provides degrees focusing on learning our history, or even a simple tool like a universal reading list. Instead, we have an enormous stream of data with no clear direction and no pathway to learn. So if you were not impacted by a dedicated leader, or you were indoctrinated during the early years on how and what to learn and to grow from our past, then you were left to filter through all this, and you determine what is irrelevant and what is beneficial. That is the challenge we face today. How do we honor those we have lost? And how do we ensure they did not die in vain? How do we take what our brothers and sisters face in the most perilous day and use it to make us better, not just better, but the best in executing our mission? How do we use these lessons to ensure we do not suffer the same outcome? We all have dedicated and talented firefighters who are making calculated decisions in a chaotic environment with limited information. I know when I arrive at a fire, I rarely, if ever, see acts of omission. What I see are many acts of commission. And we would all take a yoked lion any day over a belligerent donkey. But we also have the responsibility to ensure, like the Stoic Plutarch alluded, we cannot have lions being led by donkeys. Brave firefighters must not be led by incompetent leaders. Those leaders have to be smart, humble, a dedicated student to our craft, putting their ego in their back pocket while focusing on the mission. Equally, we can never underestimate the importance of our mindset and how we approach our trade. For instance, how many times do we say or we hear, it was a routine fire? What is routine? Perhaps we say that because this fire looks kind of like the last one we were at. But we know the one constant, regardless of where you are, about fires is the fire always gets a vote. Conversely, some will say after a significant event, we will never fight another fire like that again. Also wrong. We don't get to pick our fires as much as the soldier doesn't get to pick their wars. We must be prepared, no matter the rank, no matter the type of the department. When we arrive at this dynamic event we call working fire. Our history can be that linchpin to our success, providing that pathway for preparation that might make the difference in the outcome. That's sharpening of our axe. The Marine Corps has their 5,000-year mind, and in the fire service, we should be striving to build our 2,000-year mind. Since the days of the Roman Empire, we have been accumulating knowledge about firefighting, experience, and lessons to be learned. Our 2,000 years of documented firefighting may be short of that 5,000 years of warfare, but this respectful period of time surely provides a foundation we must never squander. Our quest to develop mastery starts with our attitude. As another Roman Stoic, Epictetus, said, man cannot learn what he thinks he already knows. So when you pick up that line of duty death report, first and foremost, remove the bias. Don't think because it happens thousands of miles away in a different kind of fire department, it doesn't apply to you. Second, don't be fooled into the illusion that you know all the details. The organized chaos and all the impacts of stress on all of you operating on the fire ground has yet to been captured in a report or even understood by the fire service as a whole. Last, read it in a manner that will make you better and honor those that have perished. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1, could this fire happen to me? We all have the same structures. We all go to unpredictable fires. We all have flawed but dedicated humans that show up at these fires. So the answer is yes, it could happen to you. So we must read and learn. Second, what are the red flags and anomalies that occurred at this incident, and what would I do if I faced those same issues? Because we must first recognize red flags and then act accordingly. Ignoring them is not a solution, but is a recipe for disaster. Many line of duty deaths and close calls are not one catastrophic event. Rather, they're a series of harmless errors that seem insignificant by themselves, but coupled together in a domino effect, they become deadly. If you can rehearse these situations they faced in the comforts of your firehouse at the kitchen table, then you are building this catalog of free experience that you can pull from when you're faced with the same issue. Lastly, how can I make this event, or make me and my brothers and sisters better from what I learned about this event? What drill, tip, technique can you pull from the report to ensure it never happens again? I am a firm believer our problem in the fire service as it relates to training is not an unwillingness to want to train, but it's more not knowing how to train. Again, this is where our history is slapping us in the face, and it's telling us what to train on. Let's go back to the names I mentioned earlier. Brett Tarver can be the catalyst for developing that large area search drill or RIT drill. Kyle Wilson can be that drill in the importance of understanding the LAP and discussing the impact of wind-driven fires at a residential building. And firefighter Matthews and Phillips at the Cherry Road fire can be the stimulus for you, yes you, regardless of your rank, to develop and train on coordinated fire attack plans for basement fires. Think for a moment, when we go back and we learn from these drills, or we learn from these reports, think for a moment, what was the catalyst of the Denver drill, or the Columbus drill? A tragic line of duty death. As I mentioned before, you, and only you, get to write this narrative. Ultimately, it is up to you and how you will make an impact. I had the distinct privilege in my job to share a few words when delivering a well-deserved recognition to one of our members for either years of service, retirement, or some other achievement. And every time, maybe to a fault, I fall back on a message that resonates with me. That message is simply when we walk away from this profession, when we hang up that tourniquet gear for the last time, no one will care about the number of medals draping from your Class A uniform, or the number of citations hanging in your personal shrine, or even the vast number of letters after your name on your email signature. What they will care about, what they will talk about, is your impact. Jackie Robinson, famous baseball player, his headstone says it the best. A life is not important except in the impact it has on other lives. When we arm ourselves with the lessons from our history and pair it with our own experience, we are prepared and we're ready to make an impact. That next step can seem daunting and at times insurmountable, but we must never lose focus. It's not about us. It's about those we lead and that mission we took an oath to preserve. And that key, the key for you as a leader, regardless of your rank, is to be unafraid. A simple word, but think about what unafraid looks like. It means you are unafraid of standing up, unafraid of all the naysayers, those close and those ones hiding behind a keyboard taking shots at you. You're unafraid because you understand mission above all else. You understand that commitment to the mission will guide you in taking care of those that you lead. And that steadfast dedication is vital to bringing you and your crew home safely. You must be unafraid. We all have this opportunity to lead. It is a gift and a privilege that we must never, ever squander. As leaders, we are not focused on fame or accolades. We are focused on those we lead, rising them up, and always maintaining that commitment to the mission we took an oath to protect. Here again, history is guiding us, providing us examples of leaders who were unafraid and how they used their time on earth to leave a positive impact that was not realized until long after they were gone. I feel pretty confident that if I asked, maybe only a handful of people could identify who this is and what he did. This is Dr. Ignaz Semmelweis. He was a German doctor that ran a women's hospital in 1847. Dr. Semmelweis had noticed a trend of many patients at his hospital were dying at alarming rates. He was committed at all costs to identify this issue and find a solution. And after an exhaustive process, he determined that the sole reason for these deaths, the direct cause, was the people who were charged with providing care to the patients, the doctors. Dr. Semmelweis had identified that doctors were performing autopsies in the morning, then caring for patients in the afternoon. Essentially, the doctors were taking the diseased on their ungloved and unwashed hands from the deceased patients and then directly exposing their afternoon patients to the same death sentence. When Dr. Semmelweis brought this to the attention of his peers and provided what was seemingly simple steps to make sure that doctors would do no harm, he was not met with praise. No, his peers ridiculed him, attacked his character and his intelligence, which eventually led to him being committed to an asylum where he was beat and ultimately died at 47 years old. So what hideous insult did he lodge at the esteemed profession of a medical doctor? Wash your hands before you touch a patient. He changed the medical profession because he was focused on the mission, saving his patients, and he was unafraid of the consequences of doing so. He was not alive to reap the accolades and praise, but one could surmise he didn't care about that like many of you. He cared about the mission. I want to share another example closer to our profession that impacted me personally. The leader I want to share a story about is Pete Lund. Many in this room may know Pete, and that is no surprise. For those that don't, Pete was a decorated veteran of the FDNY and a dedicated volunteer to his community in Long Island. Pete was not tall in stature, but he stood among the giants and was a luminary in the fire service. He did not use his years of experience and his years of service to boost his ego. No, he used it to leave an impact. He recognized there was a gap that existed between what we learn in probie school and what we really do every single day out in the streets. That gap existed regardless of your affiliation. When I met and got to teach with Pete, he was in the twilight of his career, but his passion was palpable, and he wanted to be an agent to make us better, all of us better. And wading into this gray area of sharing your experience and knowledge without offering a certification can surely be daunting, leaving you open to plenty of criticism and questioning of your motives. But the question for Pete was not simply how could he share his knowledge, but it was how can I also make the next generation better? How can I make an impact? His solution was not an elaborate drill, a new piece of equipment, or a thought-provoking article, all of which Pete was surely capable of. No, it was simply sharing his mindset and his ethos. He alone coined that phrase, combat ready. This mantra was a reflection of him, the accumulation of years of experience and those he worked alongside. Simply put, his mindset was to treat every fire of your career as the largest fire of your career until you get there and determine otherwise. And that was regardless of whether you worked in the largest urban department or a small volunteer department, which sadly is where Pete lost his life in 2005, doing what he loved, being a firefighter. Pete was not pretentious, and if you were passionate about being better and learning, then you would reap the rewards of learning from him. He wanted firefighters to be better, and he invested his time, that currency with a value beyond comprehension, to make this happen. He was not interested in any of those accolades about spending his time in retirement doing this. Rather, he understood the importance of making an impact and the commitment to our common mission. Pete's impact was so tremendous. Now, 17 years later, we continue to pay homage to him and his commitment by sharing his passion in keeping firefighters combat ready. These two examples could have not been on further ends of the spectrum, but they shared a common thread. These two leaders had an unrelenting commitment to their mission, put their ego aside to do what is right, and left an impact. When I think about them, I come back to a mindset I think that can help all of us, and I know it helps me. I have been a student of the Roman Stoics for years because of how straightforward and simplistic their proven beliefs were. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and many more I would butcher if I tried to say up here. But they all believed in this Latin phrase, memento mori. Simply put, you will die. That's a pretty morbid statement if you don't think about what it's telling us and what those three words are saying to you. We know we will die at some point. That is a given. But this belief is not centered on that finality. It's focusing more on what you do when this valuable time is given to you. It makes you ask yourself these two questions. If you died tomorrow, what have you done with this life you've been given? And secondly, if your career ends tomorrow, what have you done with it? Did you focus on yourself and your ego? Or did you operate as a steward to this profession and this craft that we love, absorbing as much knowledge as possible, taking all of your experience and skills and imparting those on the people you lead to make them better and have an impact? We are all flawed, and perhaps you were guilty of this selfish approach early in your career. We all were at some point, but now is the time that you get to craft that narrative. Now is the time for you to think about the legacy you want to make and make an impact. Simply put, man only gets one lifetime, but history lasts forever. Brothers and sisters, what we do is inherently dangerous, and that every fire we go to may be the one that leads to an injury or our death. The fire does not assimilate to our manuals, our SOPs, or even our best laid plans. So we must never forget, the fire always gets a vote. And that is so important to me that it's worth repeating. The fire always gets a vote. The fire is unrelenting in its challenge. It is unbiased in its hate. And we must meet this challenge with a mind full of knowledge gained from our history, a heart full of love and dedication for those that we lead, a steadfast dedication and commitment to the mission we took an oath to uphold, a perseverance to always sharpening our axe, and finally, that courage to be unafraid. God bless our fire service, and God bless all of you. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Can't touch that. Just a moment of personal privilege. Give me 2 seconds. This will be brief. I'd like to recognize someone who's been extremely important to the FDIC family, to the city of Indianapolis, and to this show. Major Dromo Clayton Thomas. Clayton, would you please stand? Where are you, Clayton? He's a short guy, so he may be standing. But he has been our drum major, has led that pipe band for over 25 years or so, and just an absolute wonderful guy. I'd also like to just thank all of you and ask a few things of you, if you don't mind. We're going to have some amazing things happening. The fun run on Thursday night is now to support the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. I would please ask you, if you run, to join us. If you just want a cool t-shirt, to buy the cool t-shirt. But the Firefighter Cancer Support Network takes care of all our brothers and sisters who get sick. And I would really, really, really be grateful if you could please join us on Thursday evening, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at the White River State Park, or just buy the damn t-shirt. Says no one takes a salary, no one takes a dime for the Firefighter Cancer Support Network. Every penny you give us goes to help firefighters that are sick. So please, please do that. Please keep Steve Dillman in your prayers. He's stage 4. He's our friend. He's been with us for 25 years out of Indianapolis. So please keep Steve Dillman in your prayers. I'd like to introduce to you our medical director, Dr. Ed Dickinson. Doc, would you just stand for a second? The good doctor has helped us put together this incredible combination of fire and probably what we do 99% of the time, in a lot of places, 80% of the time, and everywhere, care for those who need us, medically, physically, whether it's trauma, whether it's a medical emergency. So he's helped us put that program together, so bringing it all together so that firefighter, paramedics, EMTs can the only reason we cut open a bloody car is to get the person out. We're not looking for the owner's manual, for God's sakes. You know, and Doc Dickinson has stepped up. He just works with us night and day. He's one of the greatest people. We're going to have this most amazing thing on Friday in this room called the GEMS Games, where teams from around the country have come together to compete. The finalists will be here. 2 teams are from FDNY, a boys team and a girls team. So that ought to be really interesting. I'm rooting for the guys. Just once, could we win something? Please, dear God. Just kidding. The women of fire looking like, you son of a gun. So it's going to be a really interesting competition, and Doc Dickinson will help you understand why our medics are doing what they're doing, and it's just like a movie scene. It's intense, it's going to be beautiful, it's going to be right here. So, you know, if you know, all of us are EMTs, a lot of us are paramedics. It's so super cool. So please join us Friday morning right here. Don't forget about Stop, Drop, Rock and Roll on Thursday night, the MSA block party. We've got the Fool's Bash tonight out there on the plaza. We've got Unplugged on the stage here at 5 o'clock, 5:30 with Chief John Salka, our Lifetime Achievement winner, Chief Rick Lasky, legend, Bill Gustin, another legend, and who am I forgetting? Oh, not the John Norman. He's like Ohio State. He's the John Norman. So I'm getting old, and an old guy. There'll be another old guy. So please join us tonight. I just can't tell you how grateful I am to all of you. I'm so grateful to all our veterans for being here. Thank you so much for today. Tomorrow is going to be amazing. We've got Dan Shaw, David Page, and Frank Viscuso. So it is going to rock and roll. We'll see you here at 07:30 tomorrow morning. I love you all. God bless, and thank God we're here. God bless you all. God bless America.